Welcome to the Be Better broadcast, where we bring you experts in all different areas of self-mastery to help you improve in your emotions, your relationships, your physical body, which is specifically what we're talking about today, as well as your spirituality. And we're going to touch on a lot of these topics today in this conversation because we are joined by Lisa Marie Delugo. And for those who don't know Lisa is a certified running coach and a health coach. She created her business, Ella Go, to not only teach women how to run, but to empower them through fitness and health and everything in between. Lisa, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited.
Me too. Yeah, me too. We just for everyone listening, Lisa and I met last week and she told me a lot about her story and what she's doing and who she's helping. And I was super inspired just from our conversation together. So I'm really pumped to see what we can extract out of you in terms of practical advice with fitness, your own journey, so that we can learn from it and go from there. So thanks for being here. Now, you're a running coach specifically. You do a lot of other things, right? You don't just coach people on running. You work with them in many different areas of their life and their fitness. But I heard you say before that you've not always loved running. I actually heard you say, I used to hate running, but now you're a running coach. So how did that transition go from not liking running to now coaching people to improve in their running?
So I was never a runner. And, I was just saying this to somebody. So at the time when I thought about, joining my running club in high school, I thought, okay, here's my chance to do something that I thought about always wanting to do, but never did it. And it lasted one day. I think I told you that lasted one day. And I was like, yeah, this is not happening. I'm not doing this. And I think that, just to go a little deeper is that at the time for me, running meant like you were physically fit and i.e. skinny. And at the time, I didn't feel like I was very comfortable with my body. And I thought, well, if I can do that I've got it made. I got there, So when I couldn't do it, I was like, okay, it's not for me. And I tried so many times to do it. It was so hard. I mean, running is not easy. I mean, you're pounding the pavement. You're breathing really heavy. You're making your lungs expand in a way that it doesn't normally expand. So, of course, I was just like, I don't like this. This is hard. But because in my mind, I thought, well, if I can do this, this means that I am fit. Like that's how that's how I equated it to. And it had a lot to do with, body image. But, slowly but surely, when I started learning that has nothing to do with it, and I got a taste of the mental health aspect of running, then I was like, okay, this is more like a release, not so much about being fit, because you could probably, and also just a step back, I saw a lot of people who would run and eat pizza and drink beer and, and I'm like, well, that's not healthy. So in my mind, I had a mind shift. So running was more for my mental health and more how I felt mentally and emotionally. And that's when I started to love it, because I got a sense of the release and the endorphins and I started liking it. Now there's days that I don't always want to run, but the minute I get there and that I get that sweet spot, I'm done.
Wow. Super interesting. Yeah, I respect running very much. And last year, the year before the pandemic, I actually ran every single morning. I woke up at 5 a.m. I was on the whole 5 a.m. club stint. I read the book by Robin Sharma. I don't know if you read it. Excellent book. And he talks about being active as soon as you wake up. So I started to run. I used to get my workout clothes ready, and I still do this. I just don't run anymore as much, I should say. And I would run, and I didn't like it until I got into it, about 10 minutes into it. So right after I crossed that first mile threshold. It's interesting what happens when you run, how it goes from being a body intensive thing to your body then going on autopilot in a sense. And then it becomes a completely mental game. So I can completely see why you would say it's more of the mental health aspect and releasing, what might be going on in your life. So I guess specifically, how have you found running to help the people that you work with and coach? Because I know you work with them and you coach them in running, but my question is, who specifically do you work with, and how do you help them in a running sense and also in other areas of their life?
So my target audience is really for the woman, because I focus more on women. That's my target audience. Those are most of my clients are women. It's a woman who is probably never ran, always thought about it. And it needs some of that. She's stressed out. She needs that stress release. Or maybe a woman who used to run, and then, life took over and she stopped and she wants to get back to it and she doesn't know how to. And it's not that they don't know how to do it. It's not that you need to learn how to run. I mean, you could put your sneakers on and run. I got to teach you how to run. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but it's more of, how can I make this something that is not only going to help me physically, it's going to help me mentally and emotionally. So it's helping them to get started, helping them to believe in themselves, that they can do something that they never thought they could ever do, and then feel that amazingness of that release and feel like, you know what, I got this. I got this thing called life. I got it. If I can do this, I can do, because it's all connected. If I can do this thing that I thought was so freaking hard, I can do anything. So it's more of the, that empowerment piece. So that's, I think, I hope that I do for these women, is to empower them through running.
Yeah, that's powerful. I remember I started my fitness journey wanting to look differently because I wasn't happy with the way that I looked. I talked to you about it. I was 260 pounds. I was very obese, right? There's no skirting around that. And I wasn't happy with how I looked. So I started going to the gym and moving my body more to change how I looked. But like you just said, it more so changed how I felt. And while my looks didn't change immediately, the way that I felt did change immediately. And that impacted it impacted every single area of my life, financially, emotionally, with relationships. I had more energy. Like, it's a Saturday and we're talking here at 8 a.m. when most people are sleeping in, right? And you work as well as your business, doing what you're doing, coaching and working with people. You have to take care of yourself, and not just to look how you want, but to feel the way that you want, because your feelings are what determine your destiny and what you do, right? So when you start working with someone, I would bet that most people come to you because they want to look different, right? Would that be right? They want to look different, but then you start working with them and they get these other results. So when someone comes to you and says, Lisa, I want to look this way, right? I want to be your client. What is the first steps that you guide someone through generally? Like, what's your process look like?
So yes, of course, that's why a lot of people come to me, is that they want to look a certain way, which, okay. So knowing that, the first step is, I need to know why they want this. What is their reason? What is their reasoning behind doing this? If someone says to me, well, I want to be a size 6, I'm going to say to them, well, what's this about? What's really going on? Where is this coming from? Trying to get an idea of, where are they, where they are right then and there in their lives. And it's interesting because even though they come to me with that kind of problem and they're looking for me to help them solve that problem, there's a reason why they are thinking that physical aspect. There's a reason why you feel like you need to look a certain way. It's not just because, no, there's something going on that's underlying. So of course I have to get to know them and, see what their goals are and put something together. But as we start the program and the running, we're going to tap into the emotional aspect of it. And I let them know that, like, this is not just, if you're looking for just someone that's going to get you to run and you want to run fast, I am not your coach. I'm not. That's not me. I am a coach who's going to help you not only run and establish your goals, but you're going to have a total mind body transformation. This is not just about the body, because if you're only doing the body, good freaking luck, because the mind is still stuck in its old way of thinking. When you got to your goal, you're going to go back to where you were from day one. It's not going to work. So this has to be worked as well as the entire body. And that is what I'm about.
What comes first, though? Does the mindset come first, or does the physical movement come first?
That's kind of funny that you said that. That's interesting. I think that the mindset is not going to come first, because in their minds, they think everybody, we all do it. We all know, we think we know what we want.
Yeah.
We all think that, right? So of course it's the physical. We're trying to get them to move. So let's do the movement. So as you're doing the movement, other things are going to conjure up while we're doing the movement. And that's kind of where I tap into like the emotional piece as you're doing the movement, because even, during the coaching sessions, I have them talk about affirmations. I talk about their whys, because their whys. Why do you want to run? I mean, is it because you want to, you can have a woman that says, well, I want to lose weight. I said, okay, so why do you want to lose weight? Well, because I just want to feel good. Okay, so what does that mean? How did you feel before this moment? I mean, we're tapping into, these deep emotions here, because I want to know, and I want them to know why they're truly doing something. Yeah. So, as they're doing the movement, it kind of is, it's kind of like you got the physical part here and the mental part here, and I'm getting the physical going and slowly the mental part, and then we're in the middle.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, one of my mentors in life was Tony Robbins. I found him when I was 21 years old. Someone introduced me to The Secret, which is about the law of attraction, which I want to talk to you about afterwards. But The Secret led me to Tony Robbins. And he's always said something that's always stuck with me is emotion stands for energy in motion. Right? When you're in motion, you are creating energy. So if you don't have energy, it doesn't mean don't go move your body, don't go run, don't go work out. It means go work out, go run, and you'll create that energy. Because I'll tell you, I woke up earlier this morning. I don't usually get up at 5 anymore, usually at 6. And that hour is a big difference, but I like to still have my routine before I do things, right? And I was about to go outside for my morning walk. I just do a fast walk every morning. And I did not want to go outside for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's like 45 degrees right now up in Hudson Falls where I'm living. And the second reason was it was early. I was tired. I was feeling tired. And I was like, I really don't want to do this. Maybe I'll just walk after my conversation with Lisa. But I was like, no, because I'd rather do other things. And I know it's just a mental thing. So I got my shoes on. I went outside and I started to walk. And I did start to jog because I was still kind of feeling tired. And literally 5 minutes into it, I was a completely different person, completely different. And then you hop onto this interview and I'm like, you're radiant. You can feel your energy through the screen. And I'm like, I know she just ran. And I'm like, what's going on in your morning? And you're like, well, I just got done with my run. So it's just so interesting how movement equates to energy, no matter what stage you're in, because it's scalable, right? If you are 250, 350, 400 pounds, then maybe just band work will get your body moving and create the energy and the feeling that you want. Maybe it's just a slow walk, a brisk walk, whatever it might be. It might even be some sit-ups or jumping jacks or whatever makes sense for you. If you are fit, maybe it is a 3-mile run, 4-mile run, lifting. It's all scalable, and getting into motion is what creates that energy. So that's a main reason why I wanted to ask you that. But I'm also super curious about your story, because I know a bit about your story at this point, not all of it, of course, but I wanted to ask you about it. But first, I wanted to ask you, who was Lisa in high school?
Oh my God, you wouldn't recognize her. You wouldn't recognize me. You wouldn't recognize me. So I was really quiet. Okay. I was quiet. I was not someone who spoke up, used their voice. Was very shy, um, and I lived a lot in my head. There was a
Mm,
lot of dreams going on, daydreaming, in my head, and not really, taking action. But yeah, I was scared. I was scared of life. I wouldn't be one that would be talking like I am right now with you, openly. And I was just scared and shy. That's who I was in high school.
yeah. I was similar in the fact that I was shy. I kind of hung around with people from all different types of groups, some jocks, some anime kids, some nerds, some gamers. So I can relate to that. What were some of the daydreams that you had back then? Was there any thinking that you would be doing what it is that you're doing right now?
Oh my God, no. Are you kidding me? No way. I mean, the part of the shyness and the quietness is because I really care too much of what people thought. I care too much about, oh, they're going to think I'm this. And oh, what if I say that, they're going to think this, they're going to think I'm weird. I was so concerned about how people perceived me. So, I would have just dreams of, growing up and traveling and maybe going to college and things like that. If you said to me I was going to be like being a running coach, owning my own business, I would have been like, oh God, no. I mean,
Yeah.
at the time I wanted to be a doctor, and that was what my goal was. I liked helping people, but that was more of my daydreaming was that.
Yeah. In terms of fitness at that time, and in terms of, like, I remember me, I've always struggled with my weight. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I was the chubby kid in middle school, right? And it went from 6 years old to 8 years old, a drastic change there. And it was because, I mean, it's easy to see why. My parents let me eat whatever I want. The cupboards were always stacked with chips, and I drank a lot of milk, like a lot of milk. My mom would bring me home McDonald's while I was in high school. Like every night I'd text her because she worked up in Queensbury, and I'd say, can you grab me McDonald's? And she'd grab me a 5-piece chicken select with a large fry 3 times a week. And I struggled for years and years and years. And you don't know about fitness in school, right? We're not taught about how to take
Mm-mm,
care of your body. We're not taught about
mm-mm.
emotions. But it got to the point where I wanted to find a girlfriend, right? I was 15, 16 years old, and I knew that something had to change because I wasn't happy. And that's when I just started trying anything. I tried like thermogenics. I tried moving my body more, but I mostly tried like, those pills you see the ads for on Facebook, like acai berry pills and thermogenics. And they actually worked, which is interesting. I don't know if it was just that, but I always struggled with my weight, is the point that I'm saying. So where was your mindset in terms of your health at that point? Like, did you struggle with that? Was it not a concern for you?
Yeah, I mean, so the other part about daydreaming was I didn't have a boyfriend. Everyone had boyfriends, and I was like, oh God, when is this going to happen? I guess no one's going to want, no one's going to want me. And, in at the time, I saw myself so chubby. I thought, like, I look at my pictures now, I'm like, what?
Wow.
God, what was I thinking? I mean, I thought I was so big because I was, first of all, in eighth grade, I was the tallest girl and taller than all the boys.
Mm,
So I was like, okay, is this how it's going to be? No one's going to want to dance with me. But then, of course, the boys kept going, growing, and I stayed this height.
mhm.
But I felt big. I felt like I was frumpy. I didn't like wearing tight clothes. And I saw how all the other girls, now this is like late 80s, early 90s, where, some girls were showing some skin. I couldn't be that.
Yeah.
So struggling in my mind for my weight, I didn't know that you had to move. I didn't know part of fitness was moving. All I thought was the food. That's all
Yeah,
I
me
kept
too.
thinking, is that because I stuffed my feelings. That's what I did. That I was a stuffer. So I would overeat. And I tried so many different diets. Like back then, it was the, what do you call it? The slim diet, the
Slim fast.
slim fast.
Yep.
Yeah, slim fast. I was doing slim fast. I remember. And it's crazy. I think about it, like, how did my parents allow me to do that? It's like so inappropriate, right? So I was doing Slim Fast. I was doing like sit-ups, crunches, thinking that that's how it's going to work. And of course, it's not how it works. So yes, I was struggling, and I just felt like I was this big girl that no one was going to want to date.
Yeah. You know, I'm really happy you brought it up, because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is self-image, because I heard you talk about this before.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through the same exact thing when I lost the weight. I was 190 pounds. I was 17, 18 years old, even into my early 20s, right? I was a thin guy. And I was very thin, like almost unhealthy thin in a way. My arms were very small, much thinner than I am now. I'm much healthier now because I actually started to lift and put a focus on my body. But at the time, I would look in the mirror and I would still see the fat kid. And now when I look at pictures of me from when I was 17 years old, I think to myself, I actually looked very skinny. Like too skinny, but I was wearing very baggy clothes. Like my jeans were baggy, my shirts were baggy, but I was a really skinny guy. But in my mind, I was, like you said, I was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating because I feel a lot of people go through this. If you're listening, you might be going through the same thing. I read a book about probably a couple years ago called Cybernetics. Have you read this book?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, I think you would absolutely love it. It's by Maxwell Maltz, who was a plastic surgeon in the 1960s. And Maxwell had a lot of people come in for plastic surgery who didn't even like need the plastic surgery, right?
Mm.
But what he found was not necessarily that they didn't need it. He found that a lot of these patients of his, he would perform the surgery that they wanted, but afterwards, even with a different nose, even with whatever body augmentations they got, they would feel the same way about
Mm-hmm.
themselves and they would think the same thoughts. But even though their body changed, their mind and their self-image still hadn't. And I got to tell you, I know I'm going for a while, but I am leading this somewhere. Even to this day, I'm on a challenge called 75 Hard by Andy Frisella. Have you heard of the 75 Hard challenge?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm going to send you stuff on this challenge afterwards. Super cool. I think you would respect it. And I was on day 36 of this challenge and I hadn't seen many results. It's a mental and a physical challenge. But I got onto a call with my coach and he says, Brandon, he's like, you're really slimming out. He's like, look at your face. I can tell by the way that your shoulders sit, the way that your shirt is sitting on your shoulders. And I'm like looking back at him over Zoom and I'm like, are you just saying that? And he's like, Brandon, I'm seeing a difference here. And I thought, well, I haven't seen a difference. But what's fascinating is the next day I look in the mirror and I say, whoa, like there is a big difference here. Like I am slimming out. I am getting more definition, but I didn't notice it until someone else said it.
Mm.
So I have this fascination with self-image. And I guess my question for you would be, how were you able to overcome this challenge with self-image? And how do you coach other people through this challenge?
Yeah. So it's going back to that question that you asked me about when these people come to me and want to look a certain way for running. And you're absolutely right. You could be running and doing all these amazing things and losing weight. But if this is not worked on, you're still going to see yourself the same way. And that's why it doesn't work. If you don't tap into, by the way, that is harder than the physical. Working on your mental strength is way harder than physical strength. It's way harder. Okay. That's going to take some sweat, tears, lots of tears, blood, whatever. Okay. It takes a lot. So for me, that's exactly what it is, the self-image. And that took a lot of therapy work, being happy with who I am, being satisfied and working at it. It's an everyday work. And by the way, it's not work, ED. It's working. I'm constantly working on it. It's a constant thing. That doesn't mean that I was where I was 20 years ago. I moved. I'm I'm lifting myself up. I'm getting to a point, not getting to a point, but I'm moving, towards that level where, I am at completely, not really caring about what anybody says, which is like, I feel like that's like a Buddhist level there. But, to get to that point, you first have to acknowledge that you have that issue. That's the problem. A lot of people don't realize that, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to look like this. Well, what really is it? Is it because you think that that is what's going to make you happy? That you physically looking a certain way is going to make you emotionally happy? And that's where I said I get to know who they are, because if that's the reason, then we got some work, and I let them know that. So you have to know why you're thinking, acknowledge that you're thinking that way, and then be ready to do the work. And that includes going back to, doing your child wounds, getting those wounds, those trauma wounds that you had when you were a kid, and why you're thinking the way you do, and really digging deep. And that's where you're going to need a life coach or a therapist to help you along the way to get to the point where you're like, oh man, now, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, now I get it. Wow. And do I really want to live like this for how long? No, I want to change. Then it's like, I want to change. Okay, because then you get to the point where I want to change. And then you're like, how do I change? Okay, then it's the how do I do this?
Yeah.
And then there's so many different ways to do this. I mean, you could read till you're blue in the face, till you're blind, and you got to do the doing. You got to do the work. So the work is hard, and that's, changing your ways, changing your mindset. I mean, there's so many ways to get to that point. But for me, I think that it was learning to love myself how I am right now, not how I'm going to be, not how I was. I mean, right now, am I happy with who I am right now? And if I'm not, what is it? And how can I change it? No one's responsible for me but me. So when you own that, because that's powerful, you are on the driver's seat of making these changes. When you realize that, then you're like, I have the power to make my life different. I have the power to live the life that I want to live. Then you feel empowered to make those changes and open to looking at all the different things. I mean, I did meditation. I went to a Buddhist temple. I went to all these places to dig deep, and all of those different things contribute to where I am right now.
Yes. And I think there's a couple of things that I want to dissect from what you just said that are very important, but they can't be brushed over because of how important they really are, which number one is environment, right? Being around other people who want to see you succeed. If you're around other people who aren't happy with the way they look, then what's the general conversation going to be about how they don't like how they look? Right. And then you'll look at yourself and you'll be like, well, I have that thing that they don't like about themselves. So maybe that's what it means about me. And you start to develop all these beliefs, which I want to talk about too. But community is everything. And you just mentioned Slim Fast, but I know you also were a member of Weight Watchers at a point, right? And you talked about counting the points and not really knowing how to eat, but you still counted the points. And you, correct me if I'm wrong, you saw results from that at one point.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did.
And my mom actually did Weight Watchers for a long time because it was like the craze at a certain point. Like that's what everyone did.
Yep.
And a part of it is, they give you the point structure, but another part of it was the community that they instilled. Like I remember my mom going there every day. I was young. I didn't really understand it, but she always came home and she talked about weighing in. She talked about the meeting. She talked about everyone shouting out their celebrations and everything, that their successes and their wins. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to be a part of that community. Right. So it's about bringing around you that community, but also, like you said, asking those powerful questions like, why do I want this change? What is it about me what's the reason why? I call it the red dot. What's the main driving factor, the bullseye that you're shooting for? But also, how are you going to do it? And that's where a lot of people get hung up though. When they ask the how, and this is what I want to dig in with you right now. When they ask the how, they find running as an option, and then they find lifting. And then they find this fad diet and this fad diet and Weight Watchers and Slim Fast. And they're like, oh my God, there's so many options. I don't want to do any of them, right? Which one do I do first? Or they try one and it doesn't work for a week. And then they go to a next one and they jump around, they jump around, they jump around. It's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in relationships. So when it comes to the how, specifically around self-image and fitness, right? And feeling good, because it's all about feeling. Are there any specific strategies or common themes that you follow in your own life, but you also coach the people you work with to follow when it comes to these areas?
Yeah. The how. I love that you said this, because this is my pet peeve with so many of these self-help gurus. They do a lot of this. They tell you what you've been through, why, why it happened. But then, you know how many times I read things and I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for the how. Let's get this going. And I'm not going to name names because there's some big names that people just love them. And I just said, yeah, they're nice, but they're not telling me how to do it. Yeah. So, and that was hard because I had to figure that out myself. So as far as, how do we, address that with the people that I coach, it's all different because everybody is different. Okay. So for some people, they want to unload and they don't have anyone to validate. They don't have anyone to listen. They've been holding these things in their minds so closely and dearly that they have not actually said it. So I give them that space and that permission to say whatever the hell they want to say as we do the runs or when we do the Zoom calls, because we are going to talk about how do you feel? How do you feel about where you're at with your life? We're asking questions and I'm giving them that permission to say what they want to say. Just that one thing that I'm just telling you, just to, when you're done with the run and they're like, man, it felt good. Yeah. They just they word vomited something that they've been holding on. There's, so it could be something just that. And then what happens is, so this is a tactic that people don't realize. When you are actually saying these things that they're coming out and they're being put into existence, you're going to now see it in such a different way. Because when you're holding onto things, they become they become like these things in your head, like you in your mind, they hold up this fantasy and they're, but when you finally say it and you're like, wait a second here. Yeah. Hold on a second here. That's really not that bad. My God, I thought that was going to be bad. So, that's one of the ways that I tap into that. And that's something I do. I mean, how do I do that? I do that through my podcasting. I do that through my stories. I'm very open on all of my social media. I say how I feel. I post what I feel. That's therapeutic for me because that's empowering me to let it out. So that's empowering somebody else as a client to let it out. Yeah. So that's just one of the tactics. Another tactic could be, again, I do believe in the law of attraction. I do believe we have these self-limiting beliefs. So a lot of these women come to me thinking they have to look a certain way to be running, that there's no way in hell they're ever going to look like a runner. They're never going to be able, the nevers, the can'ts. Let's flip that. So it's not that I am going to be, I am strong. I am powerful. So those are the things that I say to myself when I am coming into a situation that I'm scared or I'm not sure of. That's how you build and empower yourself. So those are the ways that, I have these affirmations that I actually add as a homework for some of my modules for running, where I say, pick a couple affirmations that you feel are going to be impactful to you. Like, are you someone that feels that you don't have strength? I want you to start saying that I am strong. So as you're even running, I am strong. I mean, I know it sounds corny, but when you're running and you're getting that cadence going, I am strong. I am strong. I am strong. You start believing in it. That's why some of these affirmations do work, because you're repeating them, you're putting them into existence, and you start believing in them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Napoleon Hill. Have you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
No, nope.
Oh my God, there's so many amazing books for
Listen,
you.
I listen. I've done a lot of reading.
Yep.
Believe me, like I said, when I did my personal growth, because like I told you, I wanted so badly to change, and everyone was talking and telling you, but they didn't say how. I was reading like crazy, and I finally got to the how. So
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different ways to learn things through experience, which is the most rich because you're actually in it through reading it. It's just part of my routine. So I read a lot. I read this years ago. He has a concept called auto suggestion. And it's when you repeat something to yourself over and over and over, you start to believe it. Right. So there's absolutely power in affirmations when you say it and you summon emotion while you say something, because then you're stimulating your entire nervous system around this one phrase to where you repeat it so often that there's no choice except to believe it. This is why they've done tests on liars, and they've actually given lie detector tests to people who they know are lying, and the person who is lying knows they're lying, but they repeated the lie to themselves so many times that their mind actually started to believe it. So when confronted in the situation, they actually pass a lie detector test. What if we use that for good? What if we use that for those beliefs? I am strong. I am powerful. And I like how you said we create this picture in our mind of what could go wrong. And it's this big picture, and it's the outcome that we don't want, and we stay there and we're living in it and we're seeing the future as if it's already happened. But that reality that we see generally never happens, right? It actually never happens, that negative reality. But I think it's important to say too, I still experience that with everything that I do. But I think the biggest point is what you said earlier, which is acknowledge that. Notice it, acknowledge it, and be aware of it.
Yeah.
Because if you're aware of it, you can say, oh, that's a silly image that I'm creating. And you can instead visualize the outcome that you want instead.
Yes.
Which will seem unnatural at first. But once you get better at it, it's like a muscle. You just keep doing it over and over, and you're going to get stronger. You're going to become even more powerful with that. Do you practice visualization in any way when it comes to your own accomplishments, the own things that you do, like your own routines and what you do? Like, do you visualize the success before it happens, or what do you do there?
Yeah, I do. So I have a vision board. Like all the things I want. I visualize it. And yeah, as I'm saying it, I see it. So then I can start believing it, because I think the belief is the part that, sometimes I struggle with. I mean, I'm not there. You're talking about this, and saying how you still struggle with it. I mean, I'm going to give you a good example. I was getting ready for work, and I wasn't happy with any of the outfits I was putting on. I thought to myself, what the heck is wrong with me? And I said, why do you care? I literally stopped and said, why do you care? You are not, what's going on here? Is something else going on here? So see, that's the thing. It's always something else that's going on that's putting you into that insecurity spot. Is it really about this outfit, or something else is going on? And of course, something else is going on. Of course, that's what it is. You're stressed out about something else. And that, once I stopped myself looking for things to put on, which is normally not my thing, it was more of the insecurity of something else that I may not be seen a certain way. And then that's when I'm like, stop. And I said, stop it. Like I said that to myself, stop.
Wow.
This is ridiculous. Just put freaking clothes on and go to work. You got this. You know what you need to do. Done.
That's some powerful self-talk too. I think it's important to say, like, having those phrases for yourself. Number one, you were aware that, then you asked that question, is something else going on here? And then you brought in that self-talk. So you've trained yourself to take action, even when you don't want to take action, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And you've done that over the years that you've been doing what you're doing. But for those listening, it's going to take time to get to that point. And that's where these frameworks and these systems come into play, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledge it, be aware, ask yourself questions. Why am I feeling this way? what else is going on here, and then talk to yourself with that voice that we all have inside of our head. Doesn't mean we're schizophrenic. It just means that we have the ability to motivate ourselves instead of using that voice to demoralize ourselves.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So I want to ask you about these virtual runs that you do on Clubhouse. But before I do that, I want to just ask you a general broad question of how has fitness transformed your own life up until this point, Lisa?
Wow. I, you know, it's not so much of fitness. Like, okay, so fitness, when people think of that word fitness, again, people think, oh, she's toned, she must be thin. They're thinking that when some people think of that fitness, that word fitness, I will say that I'm in the mindset of striving to live the best version of myself. And that is being fit through my mind, my body, my soul, everything. That's when I think of fitness, that's what it is. It's not just, oh, he or she looks, they tone body, or they're bulked up, whatever. It's more of, I am striving to live the best version of me, and I think that, at 47, 47 years old, I promised myself when I turned 40, I promised myself, and I was just on the brink of getting a divorce. I promised myself the last 40 years was me learning. I said, I was learning. Whoa, did I learn some lessons? The next 40 years, God willing, the next 40 years is going to be my best life ever. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do the work. I know I'm going to hate it. I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and say, wow, why'd you say that? Why did you do that? Or you could, better than this. And really being authentic and really like looking at myself in the mirror and saying sorry when I did wrong to people, say sorry to myself. So, having that whole mindset of fitness. And of course, it's that movement part, because I also want to be physically and inside, I shouldn't say physically, healthy. I want to be inside my body. I want to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It transformed me because it changed my whole outlook of life, because life is a learning lesson. It's not, I hate when people are like, well, what I've experienced and I learned that. No, you didn't learn. You're still learning, because even though I'm telling you this and you were just saying, oh, you made the self-awareness, I still mess up, and I still say to myself, wow, I should know better than this. But the difference is as I tell people, when you're going through this process of this journey, you're getting better. You're still going to mess up, but you're going to catch yourself, and you're not going to stay in that sad place for too long, because you already know what you need to do. You saw it, you're going to know what you need to do, and then you get back up. That's the difference between someone who didn't learn and they're still in they don't even recognize it, and they're still living this fantasy world. So going back to your question, it's a whole new way of living. It transformed my life. I should say it's transforming my life.
That is a spectacular answer. Absolutely incredible answer. Thank you for that, because that was inspiring. And you're absolutely right. And I remember listening to a talk you did with someone, and you said you don't go to the gym to just work out and to look a certain way. You go to be fit, and you go to be healthy, right? Like you just said, healthy on the inside, so that you can live those 40 other years, like you said, to learn more, to do more, to fulfill your purpose. And I think purpose is a big part of this, and that could be a future conversation, because you're doing it, right? You're doing the work, and I commend you for all the work you're doing, the sacrifices you're making in order to help other people, because let's face it, it's a sacrifice, right? It's a sacrifice that does bring us fulfillment, but it's 8:40 right now. You could be doing 10 other things, right? But you're here because you want to reach more people. You want to give your story to other people so they hear it, maybe take one thing away and change their life. And I just commend you for your energy, your radiance, but also your authenticity, because I've talked to a lot of people and you are one of the most authentic people I've met when it comes to the story that you tell, how you help people, but also the way that you tell your story. So I just have to acknowledge you for that.
Oh, thank you. Wow. No, that means a lot to me. That really, really does. Thank you so much.
Of course. And you help people right now in a couple different ways, right? You privately coach and work with people, but you're also doing these virtual running sessions on Clubhouse. And I haven't delved much into Clubhouse myself. I know a lot of people are. So what does that look like, these virtual running sessions?
So we just started this. I just did one experiment of it. And so what it is like, just imagine when you listen to podcasts and you're on your earbuds and you're running, and or you listen to radio, or you're listening to those apps that are like, okay, now run. Okay, now. So just think of it that, because it's all audio, right? And Clubhouse is an audio platform. So we are running on this platform together with our mics open so that anybody can talk. Just think of it back to the party line days on the phones, and you're running and you're talking and you're not alone. And like we had a couple of women last weekend. It was a woman from South Africa who was running outside. There was a woman from New Jersey who was running on her treadmill. Another woman from New York City running on her treadmill, myself. And then there were other women that were running, but they weren't talking. And we're just having conversations. So the whole idea is accountability. And you talked about the community, because that Weight Watchers, it works because of what? The accountability.
Yeah.
Show up. Someone's waiting for you. The lady who's going to weigh you in, she's waiting for you, you know? So you show up. It's that accountability. It's that building community. It's not feeling alone. And the great part of it is you don't have to run a certain way. You don't have to run as fast as the next person, because it's all virtual. So you could be running just 3 miles, and the woman in South Africa is running 6 miles, and she's running like a 10-minute mile pace, but you're running a 12-minute mile pace. It doesn't matter, because you're all running together and you all feel connected. And that's what's happening at the Clubhouse at 9 a.m. Sunday at the running club for women.
9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
Awesome. No, that's so cool. How does someone find this group of yours on Clubhouse?
So you can, well, there's 2 things. You can go to my Instagram page, which is Ella _ go. And there's a link to the Clubhouse. Or you can actually go to the Clubhouse and you can find Running Club for Women. It's the only club there. Running Club for Women. Join, and that's where you'll find me.
Wow. Okay, cool. So I'm going to put those links, guys, in the description, both to your Instagram, Eligo, and the Clubhouse Running Club. So that's going to be in the description. Go check it out. I know you're also working on a virtual running program, in a sense. What does that program look like, and who is that for?
So it's kind of basically the same things that I was talking about. And I may have mentioned the modules, and people are like thinking, what do you mean modules? So the thing is that I'm not, because it's virtual, some of it is virtual. Like the last time we had a woman from Africa who was part of the running group. And we had someone from New York City, even someone from Glens Falls, and then maybe someone locally. So it's virtual for those who can't meet with me to run. And the whole idea is to get started running and really learning the basics. Of course, there's that part and the learning how to run. And when I say the learning, the basics, it's really about what types of stretches you should do, the shoes, the technical part of running. But then there's also some of the emotional aspect of it. So I even have, like I said to you before, I say, determine what your whys are, determine some affirmations are going to help you. And then there's Zoom calls where we all talk about how we feel, how does everyone feel through these runs. And then there's a running program. There's a plan that they are able to run, and I'm able to see them through an app, their runs. So that's a program that's going to start up in the fall, and there's some cross training involved. So I hooked up with a woman who is a personal trainer. She's made some videos. So literally, it's your quintessential running program, because you want to do cross training. It's all in there. It's videos. All of it is in there. You're learning how to run. You're learning the cross training, and you don't need to go to the gym. And then you're getting that emotional aspect from me.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's a super awesome resource for those who are looking to implement everything that we've been talking about in this conversation. Will they find that on your website? And what is your website so we can link them there?
So it's www.ella-go.com.
Okay, cool. And when you go to the website, guys, you're going to see a pop-up asking you to put your email in. Put your email in there so you can stay up to date on when this program is launching and when you can take part in it. Wow, Lisa, what a conversation. One final question for you, and you can answer it however you like. What is the positive change or impact that you want to make in the world in these next 40 years?
The change that I want to make is that I want people to believe that they have the power to make themselves happy. They don't need anyone. They don't need anything. It's really themselves. That's it.
Wow. Beautifully said. This was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for your time and being on the show. And I look forward to our next conversation where we can dive into some other areas and other topics too.
Yep. Thank you so much, Brandon. I'm so excited about this. I was excited about this, and I want to thank you so much for letting me talk and tell my story. I really appreciate this opportunity.
The pleasure is all mine. Thanks for sharing your story and being authentic of your story. And everyone, again, all the links that we just discussed are going to be in the description. So go check it out. Go check out Lisa's Instagram, Elago. Go check out her website and go check out the clubhouse for the running club. And for those who always ask, the number one way that you can support this broadcast and get this to more people, we don't run ads. There's no price of admission. The only thing we ask is that you share this episode with one person who needs to hear this message. Share it with one person who wants to take their fitness to the next level, their emotions to the next level, or who wants to craft a more empowering self-image. Share this with one person because we covered a lot of nuggets in this conversation with Lisa, and I know that they can value from them too. So thank you so much for watching. And until we talk again, continue to be better.